District administration met with local and state officials regarding the required changes. The high volume of growth saw a shift in the population mass of the district. State requirements note that representations should be within a 10% deviation. Due to the highly concentrated levels of growth on the east side of the district, Clover School District board seats were not within that requirement. The proposed map does meet these requirements. Dr. Quinn?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking time to be here. We appreciate those who've joined us in person. We also appreciate those who are joining us via our live stream. We are happy tonight to have a guest with us, the recognized expert in the state on drawing board seats and congressional seats and state representative seats, and that is Will Roberts. He works for the Senate. And so, Will, if you would like to come forward and just tell a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we can get started tonight.
Thank you for having me. My name is Will Roberts. I am a cartographer with the South Carolina Senate Judiciary Committee. I've been drawing districts since 2000, so this is my third redistricting cycle of drawing districts. I actually drew the districts for Clover School District last time, and actually I believe in 2000 as well. But I do specifically remember 2010 coming up here with Representative Pope and at that time Representative Norman, and working with the school district on balancing the population between the districts. The first thing I want to go over is the one-page sheet that we have. That's really the redistricting guidelines that we follow when we're doing the redistricting of the election districts. The first requirement that we have is to follow the population equality of the districts. And what that states is that all the districts must be mathematically equal as practical. And so the way we judge a redistricting plan is we look at what we call the overall range deviation. And the overall range deviation is basically you take your largest positive and your largest negative, disregard the algebraic sign, add those together, and it gives us the overall range of the population balance of the district as a whole. The next thing that we look at is the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And in that, we look at the redistricting plan should not have either the purpose or the effect of diluting minority voting strength in a redistricting plan. And it should also comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The third thing that we look at is the avoidance of racial gerrymandering. While consideration of race permissible, race must not be the predominant factor in race-neutral considerations or subordinate to racial considerations. The thing with the Clover School Districts is you're not under single-member districts at the time. You're under residency requirements. So there are 5 individual residency areas in which each person must reside in order to be elected by the whole of the school district. And then we also have 2 seats that are elected totally at large from the entire school district. So when we start looking at these first 3 criteria, the compliance with the Voting Rights Act and the avoidance of racial gerrymandering really don't come into play too much into redrawing of this district because we're not under the single-member districts, as well as because of the minority makeup of the district is too small, I believe, in order to draw one single-member district with a minority-majority representation. So we're really trying to balance out the population equality at this point. The other things that we look at is all pieces of the district have to be contiguous. So what that means is we can't have District 5 over on the lakeside at one particular section and then move it to the northwest on the other side of the district and call that one whole district. All pieces of the district must be touching. Other things that we try to take a look at but aren't really a major factor are communities of interest in the plans and constituent consistency. We try to separate the incumbents to make sure that we're not putting 2 members together, forcing them to run off together in the next election. We also trying to minimize splitting cities and towns if possible, and also we try to minimize splitting voting precincts. But with all those factors into play, and really the overall thing with this one is just balancing out the population. And you've had a large growth on the eastern side of the school district, and so what we're going to try to do is basically shift those districts so that this population is spread evenly throughout. The next thing I want to do is go over where we stand now. So there's a map that's been handed out that is titled York School District 2 Clover Benchmark Plan. So the benchmark plan are your current districts with the 2020 census data on them. And so the stats page will sort of show us where the population's grown over the decade as far as how out of deviation your school districts are. So going back to the compliance with the one person, one vote, we look at the overall range deviation of a plan. So under this range deviation, we try to get below 10% total range deviation. And right now, you're sitting at a 65.59% deviation, which is well above the 10% that we're looking at. And how do we get that 65.59? We take District 3, which is the lowest at 24.49, and your highest, which is District 5, at 41.10. Add those together, and you come up with a 65.59% deviation. So our main goal in this is to balance the districts out population-wise, so that 65.59 comes below the 10%. The one thing that we also try to take a look at is figuring out what our target district size is going to be, which in this, you take your total population, which is 45,908, and divide it by the number of seats, which is 5, and it gives us 9182. So if we were to draw the districts perfectly balanced, 9182 would be what we are shooting for. Under the proposed plan that's come up, it's the second plan. It's York School District 2 Clover proposed plan. It's got the district shifted so that it does balance out this population in order to meet the one person, one vote criteria. The overall range deviation in this plan is just 5.4%, well below the 10% that's required. In this plan, District 4 is your low district at low 2.52%, and your high district's number 1 at 2.90%. So looking at these factors, this map would meet the constitutional requirement of one person, one vote. And so I'm here tonight to take any feedback on this proposed plan that any of the members would have as far as the shifting of the districts. I'm from Columbia. I don't know too much about the Clover area, the Rock Hill area, even though I have drawn some district maps up here prior. This is really to get feedback from you all as far as how we did on this plan and any changes you would like to see. One thing that's different with school district redistricting compared to what you've seen probably with county council and city council is that the legislative delegations are the ones that actually do the redistricting in this. And so it takes legislation to go through in order to update and change these districts. It can't be done by a resolution or ordinance by a school board like it can be with county council or city council. So our legislative session is coming to an end very quickly. I think it's the second Thursday in May is our drop-dead deadline, our last day of session, before we adjourn under sine die and come back for possible budget vetoes and things like that. So we're really under the gun to get this done. And so we're going to try to get your feedback as soon as possible. I'd like to have all feedback back to us by Wednesday at 12 o'clock so that if there's an amendment or a change that needs to be done, we can go ahead and get that introduced. A bill has been filed in the Senate by the delegation, and it's been referred to the delegation right now. And so in order for that to come to get picked up, if there is a change to the map, we would have to draft an amendment, amend the bill, get it past the Senate, then over to the House, and then eventually to the governor's desk for signature. But we're under a tight deadline to get this done, and so we ask for any feedback to be given back to us as soon as possible. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Just a point of clarification for everyone. So any comments we have from board members or from the public tonight, Ms. Spencer is going to be recording those, and you would like to have those back from us by Wednesday of this week.
That's correct.
So that you can meet the deadline that they need by March 12th.
Yes.
Okay. Board members, do you have any feedback or any questions for Mr. Roberts about the proposed maps?
Just one.
One map.
Regarding the eastern side, as you alluded to, is growing the fastest in our district. Do you, knowing that it's a 10-year period before the next census comes back and we have to redo this again, do you kind of skew those numbers that they're lower so you build in that growth so by the time you get to another 10 years that it kind of gets back to even? Or do you just do it like it is right now and let the chips fall where they may?
Yeah, we do it just like it is. The census is really a snapshot in time in which we get the data that's the official data for the census, and we use that to do the redistricting process. If we were to come back in 4 years, if we didn't pass anything this legislative session, came back in 4 years later, we would still revert back to the 2020 census data that was released as far as the PL 94-171 database, because that is the official redistricting database that the state and the courts have recognized.
I did notice, though, that seat 4 is slightly smaller, and interestingly enough, that's Ms. Marr's seat, but that is where we have a lot of those 3,500 homes that are being proposed are in that section, so that it is a little bit smaller than the others, but. Other questions from the board? Members of the public, we have for you a microphone. If you have any thoughts about these proposed lines, any questions for clarification so you can better understand it, If you'll please step towards the microphone and ask your question or make your statement, and we are taking notes. I know people are digesting. May give them just a few more minutes. This is, yes, you might want to ask that.
Just confirming that this is the version that we saw when we worked with you.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Jenkins, are there any questions from you? I hear him over there.
Maybe we can ask this, if anyone needs more time, if we have time available, just raise your hand if you want to have some more time to kind of look. Okay?
I mean, it actually, I'm still within, some people were accused of gerrymandering.
I'll just repeat the question I asked Ms. Love about if there's anybody in here that's not as much smarter than I am. But my question was about the legislation that's been filed or pre-filed.
Yes.
It is based on this proposal. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that's what you're saying. If the feedback tonight is substantial, they would have to amend that proposal, correct?
That's correct. We would do a second map, which would then, we put that in bill format, and then that would be substituted in for the statistics and the map number that's referenced in the current bill.
Thank you.
Sir, with the way that the changes and the area are changing, does that impact how the voters will be able to vote on the board seats?
Under this proposed bill, it would not impact how the voters vote. You would currently still vote for all 5 seats as well as the 2 at-large.
The same way we do now?
That's correct.
Assuming no other amendments are made to the bill.
So if more amendments are made, when will we find out about that?
Once they're put on the bill. So
They would have a chance to speak on that as well, or no?
not at a board meeting. It would be, you'd contact your legislative delegation member and you could express concern at that
How
point.
much time would we have between finding out and being able to express it?
Usually the day that the amendment's made to the bill is published on the scstatehouse.gov website, and then you could see that then, and then you could contact next day.
Because I'm just concerned about keeping this, I mean, I understand no different than the county council district now, that's new lines. I understand that there has to be changes to make it equal. My concern is if nothing's broken, I don't want anything else fixed. You see what I'm saying? Because I feel like this is a pretty fiscally responsible board, and I feel like the citizens are pretty responsible as far as voting for who they want. I don't want any of that, and I think there's a lot of people I've spoken to that don't want any of that to change. So my concern is there could be some other things come about it to where the way that we vote on our board seats are changed.
There is a possibility of that, and it just takes a simple amendment to the bill that's coming through.
So if the amendment's done, we'll have a chance to speak on it, and you'll be able to hear us out.
You'd go through the process of contacting your legislative delegation member, your senator, your
Which
House
would be-
member.
Who specifically?
Senator would be Senator Peeler for
Okay,
your.
Harvey.
And yes,
Yes,
Harvey
And in the
Peeler.
House is,
Probably.
but it would be Harvey.
Tommy
Peeler.
Pope.
Tommy Pope.
Tommy Pope is yours.
Okay. Okay, that's just my concern, because I think everything, I don't want any votes to be swayed to where it benefits one part of the district and does not benefit the other.
Totally understand. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other public comment, questions, concerns?
All right. Well,
I want to publicly thank Mr. Roberts for the work he does in drawing these lines. I've watched him work, and of course, his process looks a lot easier than our process. We don't have quite the technical software that he has, so I also want to publicly thank Dan Beasley, if you want to wave in the back. He did the first shot at the math on this, and really, really appreciate his time and hard work, and Mr. Roberts, yours as well. You've got a lot of maps to draw this political season. So.
yes. Thank you so much for having me, and hopefully hear from you soon.
Yes, thanks for driving up.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that ends our,
Thank you. This concludes the public hearing for this afternoon. Need a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
So moved.
second.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for